Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, this evening, this afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Uh, my name is Bob Serino. I am a leader in the Yoga Studies Institute, and I am very excited, very excited to be joined by John Brady for a interesting event today. The title of today's event is called Yoga of the Eternal Now, and how meditative transformation is exactly what you've been looking for. So, meditative transformation, for anybody who has kept a practice for a while, will understand a little bit of what that means. But for those of us who are maybe just starting in our practice, we'll say, meditative transformation, what does that mean? So, we are doing this event as a warm up and a promotion for our upcoming Yoga Sutra Chapter 3 course that is taught by a dear friend and colleague of John Brady's and a great teacher of mine, Geshe Michael Roach, on the third chapter. And the third chapter of the Yoga Sutra goes into the different levels of meditation and the transformation that occurs in our life when we develop a good habit of combining our 3 levels of meditation. So John Brady has been meditating for longer than I've been alive. So I think even in collective hours. So I asked him if he would be interested to share with us some of the benefits of meditation in his life and how he's experienced meditative transformation, especially as it relates to the 3 specific levels that Master Patanjali writes about in his classic text, the Yoga Sutra. So with no further ado, one more thing. There will be a Q&A session, so please use the Q&A function in the chat or in the Zoom. I will be going there for Q&A, and everybody in mainland China, I have my WeChat open, and I am in communication with Pure Gold Translators, who is translating, as well as Raw Diamonds. So with no further ado, let us prepare ourselves to hear some awesome stories and get some great information from John Brady. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you so much, Bob and YSI, for giving me this opportunity to share what little wisdom I have about meditation. I really welcome, I guess it's Raw Diamonds out there and Pure Gold Translators and all of the team that make up the magical, I think really magical presentations that YSI is really giving the world. It's a really special time to hear the teachings again of Master Patanjali, and the way it's being done is so beautiful. We'll be going to these classes with Geshe Michael down the street where we live next to the college, and we'll have the access to get the direct transmission from the master. So I want to honor Geshe Michael and as well, who brought the Essential Yoga Sutra to a huge audience, and now it's being spread worldwide. And so I asked my wife what she wanted about this talk, and we discussed it, and we kind of always kind of disagree and debate. I had a different idea, and she said, no, we're going to storytell today. And I, of course, surrendered to her wisdom and what we felt was much more valuable for people to hear. I probably know a lot of you out there directly, and I, maybe at the Q&A I'll see who you are. But I was looking for answers a long time ago, probably in your parents' generation. I'm going to take you back and give you a story about the search I went on when I was around 18. And the idea really was clearly defining my life because I was struggling. And, circumstances happened in my early life, in my late teens, that put me on a quest to find some answers. there's a time in American history that was extraordinarily magical, and I'm taking you back to 1967, 1968, 1969, in relationship to the first beginning of attempting to understand these levels of meditation that Master Patanjali is talking about. Dhyana and dharana and samadhi. These are levels of focus, single pointed focus on a powerful object. And who knew about that? What are we talking? 60 years ago? No, 55 years ago. So I was living in the New York area of the U.S., New York City area of the U.S., and as most of my generation, there was a renaissance of music, a massive explosion of music. And Geshe Michael talks about the time in the DCI system. He calls it the hippie era. And he uses the metaphor of the hippie era with the mind-only school of our traditions, which is fascinating because it's quite real in that context. And we were just in love with the music as a generation, as you probably are with your music. It doesn't change. But there was a group that is still quite legendary in the history of music called the Beatles. And the Beatles were the most innovative, or one of the most innovative groups. There were others, but they seemed to capture this period of time in the world. It wasn't just in the West, it went around the world, and their music was the first truly global pop rock and roll band of my time. And not only were they great musicians and innovators of radical changes in music styles, but they were very much involved with wanting to know a little bit more about themselves. And they went to India in 1968. And because of their popularity, we would get the news feed about being in the northeast section of India studying meditation. And the meditation was not exactly mainstream at all. It was beginning to bubble up in our culture, and they suddenly put this great teacher in the limelight. His name is Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and he suddenly became a celebrity because of his affiliation with the Beatles. And so we were all enthralled. This group of new generation 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, people started going to India looking for spiritual teachers. There was a massive amount of travel going on at that time. Slowly, India became the motherland to look for a teacher. And I was too young to really travel. I mean, I was 18. People were traveling, but a year later, I saw a flyer on a bulletin board for the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi coming to New York City, which was 28 miles from where I was living. And I grabbed my sister and one of her kids, and I said, "Get in the car, we're going." And we went to the location in New York. I'll never forget it. It was West 57th Street. And we listened to 4 lectures by his students. And it was quite a very interesting kind of high language spiritual lectures. And they asked if any of us would be interested in having a one-on-one with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and I said yes, and I signed up. And it was pretty interesting. I was given this address to go, and at a certain time on a Saturday afternoon in a very upscale part of New York City called Park Avenue. And apparently, one of his sponsors owned a 5-story brownstone house in New York City. And they gave me instructions about what to wear, and I had to bring flowers and maybe another offering. And it was all new to me, but I just kind of had to do this. And I also didn't know if I should tell anybody. It was one of these things where they'll think I'm weird. And, if I pull back these memories, it was quite an amazing moment. You're talking waiting, getting ready. They said I could ask 1 or 2 questions. And then I was brought into a room, and he was on a throne, and he welcomed me. He gave me some basic instruction, and then he gave me a mantra, which was a monosyllable, one monosyllable of Sanskrit. And he began to give me instructions how to sit. He gave me instructions about recitation of the mantra. And then he told me to close my eyes, and he sang the mantra with me. And there was a radical moment of a shift in my mind. I don't want to get into the details, but there was a radical shift in my mind, and there was something extraordinary behind the process that resulted in this first experience of meditation. And then he told me to open my eyes, and he giggled. He was giggling at me, and he said, "Now you practice every single morning and every single night for no less than 20 minutes." And it was quite extraordinary, actually. The result of something ripening within that first experience was like the word we carrot, the expression of carrot chasing. It was an incentive for me to move into a practice, and I began to do this religiously for about a year and a half. I never saw him again. He gave me a taste, and he planted seeds for me to get on a path, really. And to this day, the Maharishi University in the U.S. is one of the most successful academic universities to offer various trainings in not only meditation but many other things. But that put me on the path, you see, and that put me on this idea, of what we're talking about in Master Patanjali, the sixth limb, especially, right? This idea of dhyana, how to keep focused on an object. What are the components that you need to explore to sustain a lasting single-pointed concentration on the object of your practice, of your meditation? So this beginning was just amazing. I started reading a lot of material. There were many very important releases of English translations of great masters from India happening at the same time in the late 60s. And then my friends from university, we reunited in the summer of 1970. And my friend gave me an amazing book. He said, "Read it. It's just totally made for you." And it was called The Three Pillars of Zen. And quite frankly, this was not in America. There was no Japanese traditions of Zen meditation. There was some uh, a few Hindu systems of meditation, but nothing in any way whatsoever to where we've come now. I mean, the only true technology was the telephone. There wasn't anything else. There was a telephone and mail. So word of mouth or countercultural newspapers started to release many of the spiritual activities that invaded America in the 60s, into the 70s, into the 80s. And there was again a massive movement toward searching out for answers, and it hasn't stopped. But this was a turning point for uh, for mostly America and Europe at the beginning, where these teachers started coming to America, and that includes great yogis that we know of that really brought American yoga to what it is now. And so I devoured the book, and it was this opening, like an opening of a curtain about the Japanese tradition of Zen Buddhism, Zen meditation, and it was a manual to learn how to keep focused on an object. You're talking now about dhyana and the beginning of these levels, right? These levels of meditation that lead you to samadhi. Uh, they weren't using the traditional, you know, uh, definitions that we're talking about in Patanjali. These were coming in from China into Japan around 950 AD, 850 AD, Tang Dynasty time. And so, after reading this beautiful book, on the back cover, which I didn't read until maybe 2 or 3 months later, I realized that this this Roshi, this 20-year trained first American Roshi, which is the master of Zen meditation, was 35 miles away from where I lived. I had no idea. And he was, again, it's interesting. He owned an advertising company in New York City in his 20s and 30s, and then dropped away, went to Japan for 20 years, and came back as a Roshi, as a teacher. And he knew how to bring this system of Zen meditation into our culture. He knew our culture. And so I went to see them in their they had a beautiful 3-story mansion that was given to them in a city in America called Rochester, New York. And Rochester, New York was the capital for 2 major companies, Xerox Corporation, who were the pioneers of copy machines in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. They're still a very popular company. The owner and founder of Xerox sponsored this Roshi and bought him a retreat center in the country, and then bought him a place in Rochester, New York, so he could train students who wanted to learn Zen meditation. And again, I was at the time I was 20, so I was just, hungry for more. And I would go on the weekends. He would have 3-day intensive practices, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And there would be about 45 people. And we would sit together in 50-minute sits 6 times a day, meditation systems. And I learned how to do what we call zazen, or Zen meditation. And I spent 3 years with this great American master. So you see, the beginning of my practice was foundational in the sense of a habit. I made this stubborn, insistent habit of getting up every day and doing a meditation, maybe 2 days. I'm sorry, twice a day. depended on my schedule and my life. But no doubt it was the building block for me to to uh, explore the mind in a way that uh, that was accessible. If we talk about seeds, I did have these early on seeds to search out a teacher, and we need teachers. We need to explore searching for that teacher. We can do it with a book, but inevitably it will only bring you to a certain place. You will hit this, what we call a glass ceiling. You need somebody to take this away so you can really get to samadhi, right? Shamatha, the idea of sustaining for long periods of time a very powerful karmic object to be focused on. And how the mind is focused on that object is a big subject in these chapters of Master Patanjali, chapters 6 and 7. And these ideas are very important to intellectually understand, but then the direct experience in the meditation process is the key. You need both. And that's the magic sauce. This is the magic sauce that brings the mind to a much, much more aware state. And there's so much to tell you in this beautiful path that all of you are on. All of you are on a path. You have to admit it to yourself. You're looking. There's a point in our life where we have that opportunity to search out something bigger than we are. And I think most of us on this call are on that path. And the beauty of, for the first time in my life, the beauty of sitting in meditation with 40 or 50 people was powerful. The energy collectively helped you stay focused. And that's where I found yoga as well, because you need to take care of these knees for long standing, processes of sustaining a healthy body. Yoga was a part of my life in the 70s. The first phase of yoga, when it entered America, was a part of my life. I was doing yoga in 1972. And a big part of the sustainability of a long-term meditation practice is taking care of these beautiful knees and keeping your body open. And yoga is the perfect combination for that process. So that began something special for me. Okay, so flash forward to around 1979 when I moved to New York, and for the second time, and started a career. I found another great Japanese master and spent 12 years with him in New York City and did many, many, many meditation retreats. And the accumulation of that practice, by the way, also creates the seeds, creates the beautiful karmas that open the door to other teachers. The merit you're creating in the production of a regular practice of meditation, no matter how you judge your practice, you're planting extraordinary seeds to actually enter the potential of not having one teacher, but maybe many teachers. And so that evolution hit again a place in my heart, and it presented to me a great teacher. His name is Geshe Tarchin, Ken Rinpoche, his nickname. This is Geshe Michael's teacher, Geshe Michael Roach's root teacher was presented to me, and that was again one of the most extraordinary turning points of my practice and my spiritual um, curiosity, I guess. And that was in 1996, and I was very enthralled at the time with the idea of this other tradition of practice. And um, you know, as we know, Geshe Michael now is teaching almost every month something in the world. And I I don't know. There's an expression in America. I'm so lucky. I pinch myself to make sure that this is real because of my good fortune to be able to be in the presence of these incredible teachers. So Ken Rinpoche he was 81 when I knew him, and he was just amazing. And I would be in his presence, which then brought me to Geshe Michael's New York community. And I would get instruction from Ken Rinpoche, and I would have these, I call them eureka moments, moments of awareness that were extraordinary. And I would run out to where he was and say, this happened to me. It was so amazing. And he would look at me, and then he would say, samsara, drop it, forget it. He was so cool. He saw that my mind was getting attached to these experiences in meditation, and he just would go, boom, don't go. He would get angry, pretend to be angry. And he made it a point to realize that we can get stuck in places in our meditation. He made it a point to make me realize that our minds want to collect experiences on the cushion. And they may be a very sweet, valid expression of an awareness that we attain through this practice of meditation and focus on the object. But our minds want to own it and get attached to it, you see. And he would just say, get out, samsara. and it was the best thing I could ever have, because we all think, oh, this was so cool. I had this, deep experience. And he kept you right on the path, you see. He said, that's nothing. And so, this is an incredible, wonderful path I've been on for all these years. And it doesn't stop, you see. It will enter different phases of your spiritual career, your meditation career over the next, I would say you're probably in your mid-30s. Over the next 30 years, your adventure has just begun in a way. And so the idea of this beautiful combination of focus on the object that you're practicing with, which will change. The object you're practicing with will change as you evolve into the practice of focus and meditation. So always remember, there's not there isn't an end to this until you realize the depth of the potential of samadhi, the ultimate goal of single pointed concentration on an object undisturbed, right? The extremes fall away. And then you're in this extraordinary sweet spot for several minutes. And many things have been written about it, but to experience it is completely a different dimension of awareness. And you're going to be entering, these chapters, I guess, starting on the 17th all the way to the 28th of January. And you need to kind of consider joining Geshe Michael Roach and the Yoga Studies Institute's, uh, you know, Patanjali Sutra Course 3. It's an astounding potential of understanding the depths of consciousness and how you are on this path to begin the exploration of the mind. So I welcome you to the possibility of more is better. You know, in my day, we used to say less is more. You know, minimize your life. Don't collect things. Keep your mind clear and empty of worry. Go very empty in your life and stay focused. But in this case, more is better. Get these teachings, learn these chapters, and see where it takes you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, JB, for sharing all that with us. Uh, you were getting a lot of love here in the chat, so make sure that you open that up and see that.
Okay.
I have never connected the Beatles to Ken Rinpoche before, so thank you for making that connection. So everybody, we are going to enter into a Q&A section, but before we do that, I want to share a link with the Asian Legacy Library. John Brady is the executive director of this astounding and incredibly important institution. So I dropped that link in the chat. Give it some love. Check it out if you haven't. Let's go ahead and use the Q&A function in Zoom for any of your questions. And let's take a moment for you to type that in. And then I'd also like to drop another link here, which is a landing page to access the Yoga Sutra Chapter 3 through YSI's distributors. So we have the great fortune of sharing these teachings with a lot of incredible people across the world. So if you scan that QR code, it'll bring you to a place where you will see our different distributors. So we have English with Diamond Cutter Wisdom and with DMO Yoga in the Eastern Hemisphere. YSI Global will be doing Western Hemisphere English. If you would like to take the course in Chinese, we have the amazing Raw Diamonds and the incredible Diamond Cutter Wisdom. Make sure to join in with them. And recently, we've added ACI Mexico and ACI Indonesia, who will be offering it in Spanish and Indonesian. So click on the link and join us for a course that these have been incredible treasures in my life. And if John Brady couldn't sell that to you, then I don't know who can. That was amazing, John Brady. So thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll be opening up the Q&A here. Okay, John Brady, we have a question here from Ruko saying that Geshe-la once said that if you sit in full lotus or half lotus posture, you can have a higher quality and deeper meditation. Ruko wants to know why and how he can practice the lotus posture.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Ruko. Yeah. We say that half lotus and lotus are powerful ways to ground yourself. And we're talking about energies here, and highly important caution: if you're not doing hip opening exercises in your yoga, which you should be as meditation beginners or professional meditation masters, you're going to have problems with your knees. You've got to have an alternative way to keep the hips open in order to get into the sustainable lotus or half lotus. I've seen so many people harm their knees over the years because they just get stiff in the lower body. And you can't allow yourself to endanger your knees. and you have to remember that. Um, so we're talking more of a subtle body experience with lotus and half lotus, uh, and there's much detail involved in these positions of grounding yourself into the energies of the planet. And so, my suggestion is, if you're going to start doing a solid half lotus or full lotus sitting practice, do some hip opening systems every day, 5 days a week, so you're not going to be damaging the knees. That being said, uh, we have these places you've talked about in the Yoga Studies Institute, these very powerful, subtle energy systems within the body. And one implication with a half lotus or lotus is that your energy systems or circuits or channels uh, sustain an equal flow, which allows your balance of mind and body uh, with these energies to be managed more. You can say. I like to use the word manage because that's what we do in the more subtle practices of meditation. And so that could be a major benefit. And the structure of sitting is also implied with a half lotus or lotus that the back is perfectly aligned. There's a bow in the lower back, which doesn't allow a lotus sitting meditation posture doesn't allow you to do this, which many people you see, they're sitting and then suddenly 40 minutes later they're here. A half lotus or lotus allows the structure of the body to sustain a straight back, a natural bow in the lower back, and that's crucial for the energies of the subtle mind and body to be balanced and flowing and not locking. And so this is important. If that's not an option, I don't do lotus or half lotus. I do something which is more what we call Burmese. Um, but my yoga sustains that posture because this is something for all of you. The most important thing we can do for the world on the physical level is to maintain a healthy back and maintain a structural power of the navel chakra. These are so crucial to sustain a healthy, especially a healthy back, where the nervous system is really crucially integrated into the body and mind. So, just a note on that level.
Thank you, JB, for that beautiful answer. Uh, I have a question here from Earl Burney, and he's asking, did it disturb your meditation when a bear broke into your retreat cabin? And then he asks, how do you put aside emotionally charged or traumatic events so they don't disturb your meditation?
Ooh, that's a great question. Is that from Earl?
Yeah.
Yeah, a bear invaded my cabin one night, my meditation cabin in 3 retreat. Earl was my neighbor, as you know, maybe, and we had a sweet communication with this 380-pound black bear who went looking for something in my refrigerator um, through my window. The thing about very interesting emotional trauma or any kind of a traumatic uh, experience in your life, this is really important, and I'm of the mind that you do not circumvent this problem. You cannot. Part of part of what we are doing in meditation and the study that many of you are fully engaged in, we don't avoid that. We have to look at that in our practice. It will come up. And this is why you have to consider yourself as warriors, because you're going in to look at layers and layers and layers of different forms of consciousness. And if there's trauma or emotional blockage, the courage has to be in your heart to not avoid it. If it does come up, let it be. Let it express itself. Uh, this is a very important, very big subject. Many people go around it and think that they can transcend this uh, this block, and then think that they're moving in a direction. It has to be looked at, in my opinion, and it has to be unfolded and opened, and then explored, and then healed. And there's several ways of talking about that, but we to think we can just go around it and escape it, in my opinion, is the wrong way to go about a natural upward spiral in your your evolution. And this is a big subject, and we don't have time, but that's my feeling.
Thank you, JB. I think we have time for maybe one or maybe two more questions. So, uh, JB, Rosalia Guzman, she asks, with your experience, could you tell me what is the difference between Zen meditation and the meditation that we learn uh, in Ken Rinpoche's system?
Yeah, Zen meditation comes from the Tang Dynasty in China. The tradition I studied was sourced in 900 AD in Xi'an, China, and then it traveled through Korea and Mongolia and into Japan. And it's called Rinzai, Zen Buddhist practice. And there was a master Rinzai who was in the peak of the Tang Dynasty in China. So it came from the motherland of China, you see. And the idea is different. It's almost like they were experiencing how to find the shortcut to what they call shikantaza, which in this tradition is having the direct perception of dependent origination in a different method, and having potentially having the direct perception of emptiness in a different method. And and so in our system now, we're looking at a much more esoteric tradition that goes back to the other motherland, India, and the thousands of years of evolution in that world of India that is now literally in your world and my world. It's sustained a direct, unbroken lineage to this day, and so it is a very unique system that explores different forms of 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 meditation, and and I would say distinctively united in the goal. The system of Zen Buddhism is in line with our system. It's in line with the end result. It's just taken a different direction. I personally feel that our systems that we're working with now are they're enriched in a different, much more different uh, exploration. They're extremely rich in information. They're extremely rich in the written explanations, uh, in my opinion, from the Japanese system. Um, but there are systems I don't know about also in the Japanese traditions of Zen Buddhism that we're not. I didn't have the access to. So that's for me. That's I never look back. The system we're in now is by far my path in my heart. So.
Thank you, JB. We have one more minute left, and so I'm gonna ask this one question um, because it's very inspiring. I'll have a little trouble with the name, Hien Tran. excuse me if I mispronounced your name. They ask, I'm inspired to meditate by you. I'm just a beginner. So, where can I start my meditation journey?
Mm. You start with the beginner's mind, and that beginner's mind is the habit of understanding the simplicity of a beginner's mind in the practice of meditation. And you can sit in a chair, you can sit on the floor. Don't get stuck in structure. Just the most important thing is to give yourself a space every day and start small, 10 minutes. And simply, even today, to this day, I spend 10 minutes before uh, my mind settles and I count my breath. It's 101 meditation. You inhale one, exhale, inhale two, exhale, inhale three, exhale, go to 10 and watch the mind. Explore what's going on in the stories that come through the conscious mind, but don't grab onto them. Your story, you will say, "Oh, I'm going to go with that story," and you forget to count, and you're suddenly at 20. You forgot to count, and then just go back to one, because then you're exploring the habit of your mind. And if you can count 1 to 10, go back to one, and count 1 to 10 again, and go back to one, and count 1 to 10 again, and explore on that level how your stories of past or future or present invade the mind and take you off the object of the count. I did that for 2 years, 3 years. And that's all I was given by my teacher: count the breath. And then another object they'll give you when they think you have enough single pointed concentration to take on a different object. But that's a beginning point, and that's the exploration of how your habits of thinking invade the focus of one object, the breath and the count.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, JB. We appreciate all of your time this morning, sharing your stories and your wisdom with us. Thank you to all of the translators who have made this event possible. You guys are incredible. Your job is very difficult. So thank you so much for your efforts, all of you. Please join us uh, for the Yoga Sutra Chapter 3 if you want to learn more about really getting into these three levels of meditation and what kind of transformations can occur in your life. And the reason why John Brady is so darn excited about meditation, you're going to want to figure this out. So come join us. It starts on Monday. You can use this code to register and find a language that suits you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, JB. We appreciate it.
Thank
And
you, Bob.
Connie, I appreciate all the work that you did to also help this happen. Connie is our president at the Yoga Studies Institute, and she works hard for all of us. All right. Take care. We'll see you there, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.